after noong 2022 si Michael Yang. Yun po ang dahilan kasi binilin po sa kanya yan ni Duterte. Salamat po.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, please proceed, Congressman Teves.
may I
Mr.
ask
Chairman.
the former President kung alam niyo po ba na kinasuhan po ni former Senator Trillanes sina Congressman Paulo Duterte, Attorney Manscarpio for drug smuggling?
Hindi ho. Pero kung totoong drug smuggling man sila, they should be prosecuted in court. And if convicted, they should serve sentence in jail. Hindi ko pipigilan yan. Kung anak ko, kung totoo. Ngayon, yung na-reason dito hindi ko kilala itong taong to, forgot his name. Your Honor, if there is an iota of truth, iota lang, baski konti lang, you can find out, may nilagay siya ng records. Now, I'm willing to execute an affidavit or kayo na lang to summon the banks pursuant to my waiver. Kung may totoo lang maski isa, I will hang myself in front of you. You can summon, I will sign a waiver, all banks. Pati yung World Bank ng Amerika. Kung may isang totoo lang nakiting, I will resign and I will ask my daughter to resign and everybody in the family. That is my guarantee. And I will hang myself.
Mr. Chairman.
May I know...
Mr. Chairman.
Sir.
Dali sige, sorry. Congressman Paduano, sige. You and then Congressman Teves and then I will allow you, Senator Trillanes, after the two members have spoken. Yes, Congressman Paduano.
Thank you, Chairman, with the indulgence of Congressman Teves. Ganito lang po, because Senator Trillanes presented yung mga bank accounts. May I ask this good former Senator, how did you acquire these documents, bank documents?
Nung campaign po noong 2016, meron pong nag-abot sa aming opisina na ang pangalan po niya ay Joseph de Mesa, in-identify niya. So sinabi niya, meron siya mga dokumento na pwede namin tignan. So kampanya po yon, hindi po namin nabigyan ng atensyon until siguro a few weeks after, nakita ko po, yun pong nandoon, iba't ibang accounts. Then, chinek namin, binalidate po namin kung totoo yun, no? So, may mga nagdeposito po na doon sa iba't ibang accounts ni Duterte. Tapos, totoo nga, legitimate po. Then, nung kampanya, nilabas ko po ito at inamin mismo ni Duterte na totoo daw kasi una, dinideny po nung kanyang spokesman, but eventually, nung na-corner na siya, inamin niya, no? Tapos, hinamon din niya po kami na magbibigay din siya ng waiver. It's the very same bear na sinasabi niya ngayon, o bluff na sinasabi niya. At ano po, ako po ay nagpakita dun sa BPI branch na yon sa Julia Vargas, pero siya po hindi sumipot. Ang sumipot sa kanya, itong si Panelo. Ngayon si Panelo, wala pong dalang waiver. Ang nilabas niya, special power of attorney na may specific conditions. Ngayon po, natapos na lahat yung kampanya, presidente na siya, ni ay ni oy, wala na po nangyari doon. Kaya ito po, inadmit niya na yan, mga dokumento na yan. Inadmit niya na yan, no? And let me just comment a bit, Mr. Chairman. Kasi yung sinasabi niya, in relation dun sa case na final ko kay Pulong tsaka kay Manscarpio, sabi niya, i-file daw sa korte at harapin nila. Pero yung mga libo-libong mga pinagpapatay never got that privilege of the due process. Pagka wala ka sa grupo niya, hindi ka sa sindikato niya, protektado ka, kailangan mag-file sa korte. Pero pagkakaribal ka at ordinaryong Pilipino ka, tutumba ka. Yun lang po, Mr. Chairman.
Man, can I have my follow-up question?
You have the floor, Congressman
Na-
Paduano.
Former Senator Trillanes testified that that document was not acquired legally. It was just given to him, and with that, Mr. Chairman, though he might appreciate that bank records, but for me, Mr. Chairman, I am not a lawyer, but with regards to how authentic is the bank documents being presented to us by former Senator Trillanes, we must ask the AMLA, Mr. Chairman. So, with that, Mr. Chairman, unless Senator Trillanes can present to us another document that that bank records came from an authentic, competent agency of government, Mr. Chairman. In this case, it's the AMLA. Now, Mr. Chairman, so with that, Mr. Chairman,
Chair, this is a very serious accusation. So,
Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair,
Congressman
point of order.
Paduano has asked the floor, but with the
Yes.
indulgence of
No, I think the chairman has ruled a while ago the sequence of those people present in this hall to answer.
okay.
I think we must follow that, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for reminding the chair, Congressman Acop. Now, Congressman Paduano, please proceed if that is your last.
I am sorry, I thought that you were tapos na.
Thank you, Mr.
thank
President.
you, Mr. President. Anyway, Mr. President, now with that, Mr. Chairman, and the former President has, a while ago, has a commitment to waive his right with regards to all the bank accounts that was mentioned by former Senator Trillanes. Now, Mr. Chairman, pwede naman parallel yan, AMLAC, at the same time, yung waiver, if the President, former President, will sign a waiver with regards to all those bank accounts. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I will sign it, the document, tomorrow. And I will hand it kasi gagawin pa ng abogado. But I said, if there is an iota of totoo yung sinasabi, I will hang myself in your presence. I will invite you all to be a witness.
Okay, thank you,
Mr. Chairman.
Congressman Paduano. Si Congressman Bong Teves, and then I will allow former Senator Trillanes after Congressman Bong Teves.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is my last question. Siguro naman, first, Mr. President, lahat po na tinanong ko po sa inyo ay galing po yan kay Mr. Jimmy Guban. Not for me. At kasi po ay na-invite na natin siya rito bilang isa sa mga resource person sa mga naunang hearings. And then, may I ask Mr. President, for my last question, given na po na na-acquit si former Senator Laila de Lima sa mga kaso niya tungkol sa drugs, as now, Mr. President, naniniwala pa rin po ba kayo na si former Senator de Lima ay queen of all drugs lords?
Sir, I go by what is the reality of the day. Pag sinabi ng korte, inosente si De Lima, inosente si De Lima. Wala tayong magawa dyan. Kung magsabi ang korte, guilty si Duterte, wala rin kayong magawa dyan. That's a democratic process.
Ibig sabihin po,
Wala.
nagkamali tayo ng pag-akusa kay former Senator de Lima. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Okay, former Senator Trillanes, you are now recognized.
Maraming
May I-
salamat, Mr. Chairman.
may I
After,
be-
Mr. President, after the former Senator, the Chair will recognize you po.
May I be given...
Yes, yes. Going to the bathroom? Okay, okay. We'll have a 2-minute suspension. I'm sorry. Hearing resume. Mr. President, you will be reacting to the
Yes, sir.
query.
Sabi, dili man acquit.
Yes, ang tanong natin kanina is, na-acquit po si si Senator De Lima at sinasabi po ni former President na kung ano ang hatol ng batas ay 10 ang masusunod. Ibig sabihin, nagkamali po ba ang ating dating Pangulo sa pag-akusa kay former Senator De Lima na siya ay isa sa mga queen ng drug lords?
Sir, saan mo narinig yan? Bigyan mo ako ng kopya. Saan mo narinig yan? A recording or a newspaper. Pangalawa, sir, nakalimutan ko na tuloy ang iksuhin. You know,
Do you need, Mr. President, a moment to...
I'm just collecting my mind, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
Naipon na kasi.
We'll give you time, Mr. President. For the meantime, the Chair would like to recognize...
May I
Yes,
ask
sir.
for a recess of just 1 minute?
Yes, we'll give you a 2-minute suspension. The hearing is suspended.
Hearing resumed. Mr. President,
Yes, Your Honor. Nalilito na ako kung anong sabihin ko. Pero sabi ko kung if I'm lying or if my statements are falsely stated, or if there is an iota of magbigti ako. So, in the same manner na kung magbigti ako si Trillanes, dapat magsabay rin sa akin.
Okay, duly noted of your thoughts, Mr. President. Former Senator Trillanes, you're recognized.
Maraming salamat, Mr. Chairman. Ito pong dokumentong ito po yung naging basis ko nung plunder case na final ko kay Duterte noong 2016. At ito po ay inimbestigahan ng Ombudsman at ang Deputy Ombudsman Arthur Carandang, and I think the Quadcom can invite him. Siya ang nag-conduct ng investigation. Humingi siya ng dokumento sa AMLAC at kinonfirm niya. And because of that, tinanggal ni Duterte si Deputy Ombudsman. Now, aside from that, so pwede natin, suggested by Chairman Paduano, na yung AMLAC mismo, unless, since hindi naman na siya incumbent, pwedeng ma-access yun with the waiver. Pero we've been there before. Nagsabi na yan siya na magbibigay siya ng waiver. Puro bluff yan, pero hindi. Kaya nga, mas maganda kung ma-draft na po natin yan ngayon para papirmahan niya yan dito, no? Para wala ng alibay. Pero ito po, I'll be presenting later on, Mr. Chairman, a video of his actual admission of these accounts. No? So, ito naman pong mga cheque na in-encash, in-extract lang namin from that long list. Mga managers' checks po yan, hindi nawawala sa system po yan. And later on, exempted sa impeachment cases, kaya pwede po lumabas yan, ipepresenta po yan. That's the smoking gun ng proceeds of the illegal drug trade ng Duterte crime family. Salamat po, Chairman.
Thank you very much,
Sir,
former
I have to
Senator
respond
Trillanes.
to it. This
Former
guy
President,
is
with all due
story.
respect, with all due respect, I'll have to follow the rules. Yeah. I will give you time later, Mr. President. I will give you time later. Just so that we can put to rest this issue of waivers, because it's been going back and forth. Will the former President be okay that if we draft the waiver now, that it be signed today instead of tomorrow? Will you be fine with that, Mr. President?
Anong kapalit, sir?
Hindi.
Sampalin ko siya sa publiko.
Hindi, wala naman.
Ngayon na.
Wala pong ganunan.
Mr. Chairman.
I'll give you, sasampalin ko sa
Mr. Chairman.
Session suspended.
Session suspended.
Sabi
Please observe proper decorum. We are in a committee hearing. We have already stressed from the very beginning that the proper rules, decorum, will be implemented regardless of who you are. Regardless of who you are. We live by a set of rules in this committee, and those set of rules will be followed, and those set of rules will be implemented.
If I may.
Wait, session, it's still suspended. It's still suspended.
sorry ho.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
The hearing is now resumed.
Chairman?
Yes,
Chair.
SDS.
Mr. Chair, may
Mr. Chairman,
I be
may I
allowed,
move,
with
Wait,
priority?
former
Mr. Chairman.
President,
I just would like to apologize for the unbecoming behavior. Init sa ulo lang yun.
thank you very much for your apology. It is accepted, and I hope that the others beside you would also observe proper decorum. So, but thank you very much for your apology. SDS and
Mr. Chairman, may I move to strike off the word sampal on our record?
There's a motion to strike off the word sampal in the records. Any second to that? Second, any objection? There being none. Comcheck, you're duly instructed to please strike out that word.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secondly, hindi po basketball ito. Yung mga miro nang nag-aaway, yung mga players, kalmante lang po sana. Hindi na maulit yun. Salamat, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair. Just a
Congressman Adyong, I'll just give Attorney Degra a minute. I think he's been raising his hand.
Yes,
But before I recognize you, Attorney, can you kindly turn off the mic of the former President para lang hindi tayo nag-aagawan dito ng... Yes, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At the outset, I'm here among the resource persons because I was invited to be one of the resource persons, mainly, as mentioned earlier, as an item in the administrative matter to explain the circumstances of the two letters that we sent to the Quadcom on behalf of the President. So I am also not only a resource person here, but also acting as the legal counsel of the former President. That said, we have reviewed the agenda item for the 11th joint public hearing. And I hope we would be able to put things in context insofar as how the proceedings have gone through until now. And I noticed that insofar as what has been going on for the last 9 hours, this would only be limited to item 4, 5, and 6 in relation to the alleged extrajudicial killing in the Philippine campaign against illegal drugs during the previous administration. That said, Mr. Chair, we would like to be clarified because this is a legislative inquiry in aid of legislation. May we know what proposed legislation is being set on the table for the committee to consider and for the resource person to contribute their valuable inputs, if any, so that we can avoid incidents like what we just saw earlier, so that it will be meaningful, intelligent, accurate, and hopefully not accusatory in character.
Yeah,
so that it will be positive.
Yes.
And as I've said, meaningful discussion, so that we'll be able to come up with effective legislations, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Actually, with regards to your point, Attorney Degra, 2, or if not I'm mistaken, 3 bills have already been filed with regards to the Quadcom hearing. Isa po dyan, may kinalaman sa forfeiture of illegally acquired properties, 1. Number 2, may kinalaman po sa EJK. At saka yung pangatlo po, may kinalaman po sa heinous crimes. So, these investigations being conducted by the Quadcom has actually brought about a lot of legislation already. Other than that, our members are also looking into amendments of existing laws so that we can strengthen the institutions and the agencies by which the government operate in. Other than that, mapapansin po natin just very recently, naglabas po ang administrasyong ng ating Pangulo ng EO para sa implementation ng total ban sa Pogo. So, with that being said, Attorney Degra, Congressman Adjong?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just like to ask Senator De Lima, are you comfortable in your seat, Senator? Because earlier when there was a small incident commotion, I saw you froze for a bit. Are you comfortable in your seat? We can transfer you if you want.
I'm not comfortable, but I can stay here.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm just concerned with our.
I'm not afraid at all.
Yeah.
Thank
I'm not.
you.
Yes. I'm just saying that for a little bit, I think you froze.
Salamat
And
po. Salamat.
Just concerned.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator.
Congressman
Mr. Chair,
yes, Chairman Benny.
I cannot help but say this, no. I'm a little bit insulted by the statement of Attorney Delgra. Is he trying to question this committee on the pieces of legislation that we are trying to prepare? Mr. Chair, I'd like to find out because it seems to me, Mr. Chair, that he does not actually believe in what we're trying to do. Now, Mr. Chair, Attorney Delgra, my committee, the Human Rights, have at least 5 bills that ought to be filed. And it is not our duty to tell you what those bills are, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Chairman Benny. We do take note of your observation, and I hope our resource persons will be a little bit more prudent when it comes to the comments that they will be eliciting in this hearing. Next on our list is Congressman Adyong. Yes, Congressman Adyong.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Maayong gabi, Mr. President. Kabalo ko, allow me to first speak in Bisaya. Kabalo ko, murag gikapoy na ta kay sugod tag kaninang buntag. So I will be very, very brief, Mr. Chair, in my clarificatory questions, Mr. Chair. Just allow me to thank the former President for gracing the invitation of this Quad Committee and for generously responding to the questions and for being candid with his responses, with his answers. Earlier, Mr. Chair, I noticed former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo was also joined this committee hearing, although briefly. And we also have the current Vice President in our midst. This is a rare occasion, Mr. Chair. It only speaks about the importance of the matter that is being discussed by the committee, that top officials of our land, 2 former presidents, were present in this discussion. It only speaks about the gravity and the seriousness and the importance of what we are discussing right now, Mr. Chair. So allow me also to, at least to premise my clarificatory questions, because some of the questions that I would like to ask to our guest speakers, guest resource persons have already been asked by some of my colleagues here, and I don't want to labor on those questions. But let me just premise my clarificatory questions. I would like respectfully, if the former president would indulge me with his responses, on the premise that I believe there are certain basic rules, no, that one has to follow, especially for government officials such as ourselves. Pardon me, Mr. Chair, pardon me, Mr. President, if I premise that on a very basic tenets, no, in a basic principle of how the democratic process is being exercised and upheld and being promoted in a country such as ours. Number one, the rule of law. Mr. Chair, I'm not a lawyer, although I do have high admiration to lawyers, because I know for a fact that law as a profession is not only noble, but it is also challenging. And we are joined here on this table, on this side of the table, brilliant lawyers, and even brilliant lawyers who are seated across our table, seated beside both sides with the former president, even seated behind the former president. I say it's a noble profession because lawyers are expected to uphold and to promote the basic tenets, which is the rule of law, and to uphold at least the due process, that the very essence of why we are having a very strong, and I suppose we still have a very strong criminal justice system. Because I know, Mr. Chair, as a lawyer, no matter how convincing the evidence being presented to an individual allegedly accused of any crime, a lawyer has to defend his client before any court of law in our land. So ganun po ka-challenging at ka-noble ang profession ng pagiging abogado. So I just like po to direct my clarificatory questions po to the former president. Mr. President, you were once a prosecutor, and tama po.
Yes, sir.
Thank you po. And Mr. Chair, if I also would like allow the former president to interrupt, just as similar with what Congressman Rog, when he also asked the former president, I would also like to have that kind of arrangement. He can answer me whenever he wants. Wala pong problema sa akin yun, Mr. President.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mr. President, you were once a prosecutor, and then you served as a mayor of Davao City, and also a former member of the House of Representatives, and then went back to being a mayor again, if I have my timeline correct. No? And then before you ran for the presidency in 2016. And I guess the reason why we invited you over to this committee hearing is also, apart from giving you your fair chance of responding to some of the allegations, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, of some of those individuals who were, at some one way or the other, were part of the implementation of the war against drugs in your administration, namely Colonel Garma, Colonel Leonardo. These are the individuals who came out and then with affidavits that they have signed, alleged some things that happened during the implementation of the drug wars against the personality of the former president, Mr. Chair, and this is one way of giving you the fair chance of maybe responding to those allegations. And apart from that, Mr. Chair, Mr. President, you're correct. This is the primary consideration also of this Quad Committee, is to make sure that if there's any policies, laws, regulations in our land that have either weak or needs to be updated or needs to be amended, or for the Congress to pass a new law to strengthen our resolve in trying to protect our streets from illegal activities, criminalities, as well as balancing it with the upholding the due process of law. This is the perfect time for it. So again, I'd like to ask you, Mr. Chair, Mr. President, when you earlier admitted po na you were the ones who ordered the police, yung kill nga po, no? Sinabi niyo po. I presume you came from a position where, as a former prosecutor, there's something wrong with the criminal justice system in our country. I'd like to ask you, why po? I'm just curious po, no, Mr. Chair. Why did you? I don't know if that's an imposition on your part. Why did you have to go to length of ordering some policemen? Was there any wrong in terms of how our criminal legal justice system is being observed, practiced in this country?
Yes, sir. The matters of detention, very limited kasi that's about, you have 9 hours, 18 hours, and then 34. Sir, mag-imbestiga ka ng kaso. Kung anong sabihin itong tao na ito, you have to go out and find out the truth. And it takes time. So, in the meantime, you cannot hang on to this guy because there are periods of detention prescribed by law. So yan ang problema, because if the lawyer comes talagang i-release mo yan, and by the time that you discover kung ano ang sinasabi niya, na totoo, ano at hindi, wala na sa stasyon. Release. Of course, the periods would depend on the gravity of the offense. 918, I think it's about 36 hours. That's the most. And medyo kulang yan, sir. And usually, if there is a lawyer and there is a demand for the release, because the law says that they can only be detained for that so many hours, wala talaga tayong magawa. And by the time ma-verified natin yung totoo o hindi, kung nagsasabi ng totoo, hindi pa wala pang abogado, when we find out the truth, pagbalik natin, wala na. And he is gone forever. So, we are left with so many cases na ganun ang nangyari, sir. Or even sometimes na you have to detain a person and he makes a confession. By the time that you discover really the truth, based on his confession, wala na siya dyan. Pag-discover may only to find out there are serious issues or criminal offenses committed, wala na siya. Because that's the law. So, talagang nakatali ang ng pulis, sir, ang kamay. Because matagal na kasi ito, sir. This is a 1935 revised penal code. Hindi na na-amend yan, sir. So yung periods of detention, wala yan. Hindi na na-amend yan. So it's an outmoded, not effective, no longer applicable to the present day reality. Kasi noon, sir, mga kriminal, pwede takbo, magsakay ng karabaw, o mga sakyanan. Ngayon, sir, wala, they can move fast with all the available vehicles at their hand. So we have to amend the laws of criminal procedure, pati the criminal law itself, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Now,
Mr. Chair, with the kind indulgence of
Yes,
Congressman
Mr. Chair.
Adjong, can I just, in relation to what he's trying to ask, I'd like to ask the former president, with due respect,
Yes, sir.
President. So you're telling us that the judicial system in this country is not that effective. You said it yourself.
No, it's not effective. It has become insufficient.
Insufficient, but you also said that it's not actually effective. Because if you're saying that, Mr. President, I'm kind of confused because you would be giving the authority to the ICC to come here and investigate. Because they were saying that the judicial system in this country is not effective.
Yes.
Mr. Chair. Therefore,
I have to be frank.
Therefore, you are giving the right for the ICC to come and investigate. Are you doing that?
I will tell them a different story.
Because what you said when you were president was quite different to what you're trying to say now as a private citizen. When you were president, you were saying that there's nothing wrong with the judicial system in this country, so that the ICC has no right whatsoever to investigate. But now as a private citizen, Mr. Chair, I'm kind of confused because right now you're telling me that the judicial system in this country is insufficient and ineffective. Therefore, you are giving the right for the ICC to come in and investigate.
Civilian ako, sir. Iba naman yung presidente ako. That is a different story. Panahon-panahon lang yung lalabas sa bunganga mo.
So therefore, Mr. President, just one question ulit, no? So are you trying to change your position now, being a private citizen, to what you said when you were president?
In what manner, sir?
As what you've said, that you were president then, now you're a private citizen. Because of that, you are able to say that the judicial system in this country is ineffective and insufficient, Mr. Chair.
Not ineffective, insufficient. Insufficient talaga.
Mr. President, I heard the word ineffective. I heard it.
Yes, sir. That's why I repeated it when I said
I have
ineffective.
I have big ears like you do, so I heard it, Mr. President.
Please proceed, Congressman Addiong.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. President, for that response. I believe, as a non-lawyer, I'd like to be enlightened. Though there are certain issues on the prescription of law. There are also, if I may be correct, I would be stand corrected if, for example, my interpretation of this is wrong, no? Pero there are certain crimes with corresponding penalties, no? In fact, we have the heinous crime, we have the petty crimes, etc. So I'd like to ask po the former president again and be elucidated. You said earlier that there's something probably weak in our criminal justice system. Am I correct in understanding your response? Yes.
Marami.
Yeah. Okay. So when you say there's something wrong or something weak in the implementation, what are we made to understand, Mr. Chair, that it's the policy or it's in the implementation of this?
It's in the law itself, sir. Talagang yung 6 periods of detention, very insufficient, sir, at this time. Because yung revised penal code, sir, was, was made in 1935. Yung wala pa yung itong modern mga sakyanan. Now they can rob and as fast as they can in a jiffy and disappear.
Yeah. Okay.
Noon kasi, sir, yung mabagal. Wala masyadong sakyan.
If I may humbly request the former president not to address this representation as sir, I'm not comfortable with that. Okay lang po sa akin na congressman, but just to...
Oh, your honor na lang, sir.
Thank you po. Please continue po, Mr. President, with your response. And you were saying about the outmodeled na po or outdated na po ang ating...
Outmoded na talaga, sir. Even the periods of detention.
Okay, thank you.
We need to amend our criminal law and our procedure.
Please continue po. Okay, thank you. Mr. Chair, I'd like also to ask the former president, no? Would you say that with the lack of, with the outmodeled na system na po ng criminal and legal justice system that we have, would you say that thank you. Just to catch up with the crimes, would it be okay to also engage in killing, supposedly or allegedly criminals in the streets?
Yan ang problema. Yan ang problema. Because of the limitations imposed by law in detaining a person, pag pinapawalaan mo yan, alam mo, ang pulis, mas marunong yan sa kriminal. Alam nila na pag nanawala ito, sir, they would go back to either pickpocket or hold up. Kaya yung iba would result in the loose term salvaging. Okay. Pinapatay na lang nila, sir, para wala na silang problema because there would be criticism against them. Either pickpocket or hold up. Kaya yung iba would result in in the loose term, salvaging.
Okay.
Pinapatay na lang nila, sir, para wala na silang problema because there would be criticism against them and the outcry of the public. And kinatapos na lang talaga nila.
Okay.
Ganon talaga ang istorya kasi prosecutor, dumaan ako prosecutor.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. Chair.
Shortcut.
Yeah.
Shortcut na lang.
Okay. Mr. Chair, Mr. President, I believe you're familiar with the may saying po sa legal community na the law may be harsh, but it is the law, no? That to me, Mr. Chair, that can also be applied, and currently, no, the law may be weak, as you described it, no? That's why we are having this discussion also is for the squad committee to possibly amend or introduce any that would strengthen our policies in terms of criminal justice system.
That, sir.
Yeah, but a law, that logic can also be applied into my own understanding. A law can be weak, but it is the law. So that premise, Mr. Chair, is exactly has to be observed in order to avoid people taking their justice into their own hands, no? Mr. Chair, would you agree with me on that, Mr. President?
Correct, sir. So that to put a stop to it, there must be progressive laws from every now and then. So it is duty of Congress to listen to the police and the law enforcement agencies involved so that malaman nila what corrective measures that they can legislate so that these things will not happen or will not be perpetuated by some.
Okay, Mr. Chair, those killings that had happened in the previous years, no? Policemen who or ordinary citizens who have killed, no? Their, certain criminals, because the way you characterize it, Mr. Chair, Mr. President, is that rapists, kidnappers, I believe in 100% that nobody in this room would ever support those kinds of individuals, the way you characterize them. Now, those, let's say, policemen, kasi the topic really is yung pag-order nyo po, no? Sa mga, ang sinabi nyo, you admitted na, by policy, you feel that you are responsible. But on the specific cases, sabi nyo, you are not bound legally to respond to those criminal cases individually, but the policy direction, you claim to be responsible and you take full responsibility in that. Now, those policemen who have, let's say, palagay po natin, who has implemented po, no, yung pagpatay po ng mga criminals in the streets. Would that be also, Mr. Chair, for me, help me understand po, Mr. President,
Yes,
would
sir.
that also fall under the category of taking the laws into their own hands? Because
No,
that's
sir.
precisely why we are avoiding those. I hope you would understand me po, Mr. President, because I came from a community, and I know fully that you understand this. I came from a community where there's a cycle of violence, that people tend to take justice into their own hands. Alam niyo po yan, yung
Correct,
Lido.
sir.
And I, for one, would like to strengthen our criminal legal justice system in order to avoid and put a stop to the cycle of violence. Now, those policemen who have killed, the word is extrajudicial killing kasi outside of the bounds of the law, who have killed individuals who are charged with, not even charged, but they suspected of involving themselves in criminalities. Would that be sufficiently or accurately fall under the category of the phrase to take justice into their own hands, which is diametrically opposed to the rule of law and the whole system of our governance, which is based on the democratic principles of separation of the
It is
judiciary, the legislative, and the...
It is always unlawful.
I'm sorry po?
Mali talaga. It's unlawful. Not lawful. Outside of a judicial pronouncement that you are Pero wala na tayong death penalty ngayon. That's the problem.
Yeah. Okay, so what you're saying po, it is unlawful to kill outside of the bounds of the law. Is that what the former president is saying to the committee? Kasi my question po is, my question po, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, on the legal maxim that, you know, the law may be harsh or the law may be weak, no? Unfortunately, in the way you describe it in our current legal system, it's weak. But we have to observe that. No, anything that is done outside of the bounds of the law.
Outside of the law
Outside of law
is illegal.
it is
unlawful.
illegal. Unlawful. So therefore, Mr. Chair, may I deduce from the way the former president responded to my question, but so that I can be elucidated, those killings were unlawful and illegal.
Well, depends, sir. There has to be some a condition. Not all killings are legal, and not all killings are illegal. There are killings.
No, pardon me, Mr. President. Just to put into context, those individuals were killed by the orders of by your orders po, no? Admittedly kanina, yung sinabi niyo po. Would you categorize that as something illegal or unlawful?
That would be unlawful.
Okay.
Because kasi, sir, kung nasa custody na ng police, naka-handcuff na, nakatali na, what would be the point? Kasi ako, police, hindi trabaho ng lalaki yan. Totoo lang.
Okay.
I cannot, for the life of me. Pero kung may baril ka, papatulan talaga kita. That has been my as mayor. Papatulan talaga kita. And it had happened many times.
Okay.
I participated in the shootout early on when I was about just 3 months mayor.
So, yeah. Mr. Chair, if I may be continued, Mr. President. So those who have killed under the AJK, no, sinasabi po, the implementation of the war on drugs, those who are, kasi there are also cases wherein yung namatay po ay hindi nanlaban, no? So are we saying now, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, that those who have nanlaban cannot necessarily be considered illegal, but what about those na hindi ho nanlaban na bigla lang namatay? Can they also be considered as not illegal,
Then,
Mr. Chair?
Those police officers, law enforcement agencies, whoever they are, kung pinatay nila unlawfully, not in self-defense, not in the performance of duty, kung civilian ka or police ka, the performance of duty, which would include the elements of self-defense, talagang illegal yan.
Okay. But Mr. Chair, no, let me continue on, Mr. Chair. No, let me also ask the former president, being a prosecutor himself. I think the bulk of the discussion that we're having right now is on the assigning of the term criminals, no? Because ako po, Mr. President, gumagamit din po ako ng hyperbole. And I'm sure karamihan po sa atin talaga ay it's just figures of speech, no? Pag meron po tayong hindi magandang nakita, po pwedeng sabihin natin na you are so and so, no? Pag halimbawa mayroon akong kalaban or mayroon ako, pwede kong sabihin na ito si ano so and so, no? So those are just some mere accusations, no, allegations. Who do you think, or which agency of the government do you think has that mandate and again the mandate and the authority to assign the such and such person is criminal, and when can that, for example, I believe it's the court, no? And when can the court finally categorize you or call a certain individual allegedly of committing a crime criminal, Mr. Chair?
Sir, we have to go para hindi tayo mawala sa discussion.
Yes po, Mr. Chair.
If I may, I'm not trying to... Alam mo, sir, we have to start with the elementary thing. The law enforcement starts with the police. So he goes out there enforces the law. If there is a violation, he makes the arrest. If there is an arrest made and there is a resistance, no person na inaaresto niya and talaga nakita niya na it is a very serious one, the police, the trabaho of the police is not only to say that I am a police, that you are under arrest, but the police has to overcome the resistance physically. If there is a resistance, bugbugin na niya o anong para madala niya sa estasyon pagkalumaban and book him for the crime that the guy committed. Kasi pag lumaban yan, magsuntukan talaga, minsan nababatuta. And the police is right in making that arrest if there is a resistance. This is not to defend the police. Pero kung sila mismo, naalanganin na sila, o yung may raid, tapos may baril, hindi na kailangan sila magtanong ng ano, walang kaseremonya yan. It's either we say, you surrender, raid ito, at may maling galaw, the slightest move on the hand, even if it is equivocal kung ano ang dinudukot niya, basta may baril, the police can kill the person.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much for that, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman. Now, that's given, for example, that scenario, no? Would you say, Mr. Chair, that I agree with you, talagang may karapatan yung mga pulis mo mang-depensa, no? Even hindi lang ho pulis, no, Mr. Chair. Even yung mga ordinary tao, if you feel threatened, talagang you have the right to defend yourself. But again, going back, Mr. Chair, doon sa issue ng EJK, because this is what I'm trying to understand, Mr. Chair.
Extrajudicial killing, sir?
Yes po.
Sige,
Okay.
okay.
This is what I'm trying to understand po, Mr.
Let's
Chair. No?
zero in on that issue, sir.
Yes po. The reason why I'm asking you this, Mr. Chair, is, again, remember po, Mr. Chair, I premised my question on the very basic principle of the rule of law, due process, and etc. So the question is, of course, tayo po, it's easier for us to accuse, no? And it's only for the courts to really find out whether that person is really guilty of committing such crimes or not.
Correct.
Now, and earlier, tinanong ko po kayo, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, kung ano po yung mga lapses ng criminal justice system natin, and you have mentioned several, no? Kaya nga po ang tanong ko, binabalikan ko po, kasi this is the contention of the discussion right now. Is it justifiable, for example, that those who's the power to designate, for example, if a person is guilty or not in certain crimes, can also be taken up, justice can also be taken up by ordinary policemen or any ordinary citizens to kill anybody charged of any criminalities without even allowing them to go to courts, no? Kasi that would be inimical again po to the due process and to the rule of law, and diametrically opposed to the rule of to the democratic processes
Meaning
that we
to
have.
say,
That's what
sir,
I'm trying po, Mr. President, to understand.
understand.
Kasi this is all about EJK. And unfortunately, in the previous administration po, with all due respect, there are several also allegations of those who are not been suspected of engaged in illegal drug activities that have also perished during the actual operation of our police. Yun lang po yung gusto kong malaman so that I can also be elucidated on how we go forward in trying to introduce some laws or amend some laws, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President.
Hindi na kailangan, sir. Wrongfully killing a person is a crime. Kaya nga, hindi na kailangan na magsabi tayo na itong police na ito. If pinatay niya yan, sir, not in the performance of a duty, not making an arrest, and there is no resistance at all, papatayin mo ang tao unarmed nakatali ang paa, pati nakatali ang kamay, that policeman belongs to the penitentiary.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, earlier, Mr. Chair, one of my colleagues here asked...
Congressman Adjong, you have 2 more minutes.
Okay, thank
So
you.
let's
I will
please,
wrap up.
wrap up.
I will wrap up. Mr. Chair, earlier, Mr. Chair, one of my colleagues here mentioned about in 2013, there was a study that came out po. It was a study came out placing Davao City as one of the safest cities in the world, no? Even surpassing on the city of Ontario and Tokyo and some. That was during your incumbency, Mr. Chairman, no, Mr. President, no? In 2013, you were still a mayor at that time.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So placing Davao City as one of the safest cities in the world. Do you attribute that, the study, the research that was conducted, do you attribute that to the number of arrests or the dispensation of justice for the operation of the courts, or do you attribute that to the EJ case, Mr. Chair, Mr. President?
Killing cannot be a solution to all of these things that we have to deal with in life. Yung ako ang mayor, sir, alam nila, when I was a prosecutor, alam na nila, including the police. Alam na ng police. Takot ang police sa akin kasi wala akong patawad. Alam na ng taong Davao na pagka ikaw ay nagkasala, talagang walang akong patawad. Hindi ako nagpapabor ng pulis, sir. Pag nagkamali ang pulis, ako mismo. At ako mismo ang nagbubugbog sa pulis. Tanong ka ng, nandito man si... Ako mismo ang bumibira ng pulis pagka inaano nila yung sibilyan na what for every reason, layo na maglasing, magbugbog ng asawa. Pag pumunta yan sa City Hall, sir, talagang black and blue yan. Sipa, suntok.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I take that as yung...
Ganon ang disiplina, sir, sa pulis ko. Hindi ko pinagyayabang. Kasi may baril yung pulis eh. Kaya lang, alam nila may kasalanan sila. Kung hindi mo basta-basta gawin yan sa... Basta na lang. Pero ganon ang practice ko. Pinubugbog ko talaga.
Mr. Chair, I have here po the ito pong ranking ninyo, pang 12 po ang Davao the safest. Let me go back to the question po, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman. Ang gusto ko lang pong malaman is, of course, there are criteria, again, for...
Yes, sir.
There are criteria for Davao City to land 12 spot, no, among the safest. I wasn't really asking about how the former president and the former mayor dealt with the airing cops in his city. I was just asking about the study that was conducted. I'm sure hindi po you're very proud of, lahat naman to magiging proud po kasi safest city. I just like to ask po the former president, would he attribute this accomplishment to the killings of criminals, alleged criminals in the streets, no? Itong EJK, would he attribute that to the number of arrests or the fast dispensation of justice in the operation of the courts in Davao City?
Walang criminal kasi, sir, kasi nag-warning ako. Pag sinabi ko, when I became mayor, I'll give you 48 hours to pack up and disappear. Yan ang warning ko. Ngayon, after 48 hours, pag nakita kita,
ano po?
Tabla na.
Ano pong mangyayari after 48 hours pag nakita niyo po sila?
Yun ang hindi ko masagot, sir, sa iyo. Kasi Gusto mo akong makulong, sir?
Hindi ho. Tinatanong ko lang ho kasi this is how you run.
Akala ko kaibigan tayo.
And Mr. Chair, Mr. President, I know that you've taken your job as mayor seriously. That's why I'm asking how did you able to manage to keep, crimes at a very low level po in those times. Kasi I also link this with the case of extrajudicial killings, which you admittedly po kanina po na sinasabi, ordering the police. I just want to put in everything into context so that I can understand. Now, Mr. Chair, for my final question, I believe I'm wrap up. For my final questions, earlier, Mr. President, Mr. Chair, you also mentioned, you were asked also, bakit you resorted to ordering the police pag nanglaban, patayin, pag ano, kasi ang response niyo po, I think it was Congresswoman Franz Castro who asked that question. And you responded to her na kasi medyo masikip na sa kulungan. Kaya para mas maluwag-luwag, patayin na lang yung iba, no? That's what I heard, Mr. President. So that I took that as the response of the President because that's what the response from the President. Now, I'm just curious po, Mr. President. For 6 years po, you were President, no? 17th and 16th, and I guess in 17th Congress, you were the President at that time. And there were several bills that were proposed by this Congress to reinstate the yung capital punishment, yung death penalty. First for heinous crimes and other illegal for illegal drug related crimes, no? And I believe the lead chairman of this committee, Congressman Ace Barbers, was one of the authors of those bills. I'm just curious, Mr. Chair, Mr. President, why didn't you put the weight of Malacanang to support that bill? Why haven't you certified that as an urgent bill?
Wala pa ako sa Malacanang, sir.
Ano po?
Wala pa ako sa Malacanang.
It was proposed po during your incumbency as president. That would have been a perfect opportunity for your administration to really fight criminalities, especially those who have been convicted of illegal drug crimes. So I'm just wondering po, Mr. Chair, that was the opportunity. Has there been any talks in Malacanang that such 7 bills that were introduced during the 16th or 17th Congress under your incumbency? In fact, I mentioned earlier, former President Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo was here. I vividly recall when the voting was ongoing, President Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo voted not to pass the reinstituting of the criminal offense of death penalty. So I'm just wondering po, Mr. Chair, Mr. President, that was televised po all over the country. Why didn't you put your weight, the Malacanang's weight, and maybe to certify this as urgent bill?
Asking my honest opinion?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Mr. President.
You restore the death penalty.
I'm sorry
Mas
po.
mabuti po, ibalik ninyo ang death penalty.
Yeah, yes, I agree with you po, Mr. Chair. In fact, in my own Sharia law, although it's not recognized by the Philippine judiciary, there's no criminal component on the PD 1083, but I do support, death penalty personally as a policy. Death penalty for certain crimes, heinous crimes, rape, etc. I'm just heinous crimes. And I'm just curious po, Mr. Chair, and I want to understand from the perspective of the President, when he served as President for 6 years and 2 Congresses passed during his tenure as President, there were several bills introduced by the House of Representatives, one of which the authors is actually here, sitting there as a lead chairman. Why hasn't the President put the weight of Malacanang to push this further and make it as a law?
Yes, sir. Ang problema ang Congress, hindi mo kontrolado eh. In a Congress, it's a conglomeration of some are libertarians, some are hardliners, some are mild-mannered. But on the average, sir, hindi mainit ang ulo. Hindi, well, exception, naging congressman ma rin ako. Pero iba ang ano ko, sir, because been trained as a prosecutor kasi for a long time. And besides, I was also teaching to augment my income kasi wala naman akong masyadong pera nung nag-asawa ako. Was teaching criminal law and criminal evidence. So malapit talaga ako dyan sa crime. But stricto ako dahil nga nagtuturo ako. Alam ng pulis yan. Pati yung pulis na yan, wala yan silang patawad.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I'd like to end my time, Mr. Chair, with the manifestation, if I may be allowed, Mr. Chair.
Very quickly.
Thank you. Very quickly, Mr. Chair. I was listening to the responses of the former president, and there are some allegations that were made today, which I believe the former president challenged anybody, or any group, to bring that to the courts. And that challenge, Mr. Chair, I take it as a form of the president's believing in the rule of law. I've just believing in the rule of law and the operation of our courts.
When there is two issues, sir, and we cannot understand each other, we go to court.
Yeah, I commend you on that, for saying that. I hope, Mr. Chair, that the same should have been also accorded and should have been also been extended to those who died in the streets. I believe the former president, by just encouraging anybody, any individual to go to court and file these cases, because I believe that's the proper venue for that.
Sir, there are independent investigations, investigative bodies. It is not only the police. You can rely on the NBI, the Human Rights Commission, and others. You can tap anybody there to help in the enforcement of the law against itong sabi mong illegal killings of criminals, or what they would call yung sa ating parlance ngayon as salvaging.
Yeah, thank you.
Congressman Adjong,
Again,
yes.
let me just put an end to my statement, Mr. Chair, if I may be allowed. Again, that encouragement from the former president to bring these cases to the courts, it's actually a manifestation that all of us here, even the former president, believes in the rule of law. And I hope, Mr. Chair, that out of the 33,000 or 2,000 or thousands who have died, sana nabigyan din ho sila ng ganong, they were also have accorded with the same privilege of, under the law, of innocence until proven guilty. It's only the court that can assign anybody whether that person is criminal, because there are corresponding crimes and with the corresponding punishment according to our law. So, Mr. Chair, I will end that with that manifestation, because I do not want, Mr. Chair, to be honest with you, to be honest to everybody here, I do not want the cycle of violence, no matter the intention, because I've lived that, I've seen that, and I know it will bring no good to everyone. I don't want EJK, I don't want the cycle of violence to happen. Mr. Chair, thank you very much, and maayong
Thank you very
gabi.
much.
Dagang salamat, Mr. President.
Thank you
Mr.
very
Chair.
much, Congressman Adjong.
Mr. Chair.
Senator De Lima, former Senator De Lima, I just want to take up some matters before I recognize you. Earlier, Attorney Degra called the attention of the committee about proposed legislation and what legislative act Quad has done or intends to do. I have here, Attorney Degra, 8 pages. If you want, I can read each legislation to you. House Bill 10986, House Bill 10987, House Bill 110843. All of these are new proposed measures We have policy recommendations as well. For extrajudicial killings, we have policy recommendations as well, totaling to 8 when it comes to the issue of illegal drugs. We have proposed amendments for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 existing laws. We also have proposed legislation to repeal and revoke certain laws that are not anymore needed at this time, and possible enactments of other laws. I will give you a copy of this, Attorney Degra, just so that, you know, any of you, or actually there's more here in the back, if any of you have any questions about the intent of Quad and why we are doing this, and questioning if there are legislation that will be pushed after, during even the hearings, COMSEC, kindly forward this to Attorney Eglin. And also, Attorney Degra, for your information, the chairmen serve as the principal authors to these House bills. With that being said, I just have a policy question. Kanina pa po, Mr. President, na babanggit itong pagbumunot, barilin. Tama po ba yun? Oh. Hindi po ba pwede, Mr. President, yung i-disable na lang kaysa patayin? Yung bang barilin na muna sa paa, sa braso? Bakit kailangan patayin?
Pag bumunot yung tao na yung kriminal sa harap mo, o even if not a criminal o nakalasing lang, pagka bumunot yung baril siya, papunta yung baril sa direksyon mo, you are in... Sige lang kayo, sira ng plato dyan, maubusan tayo dito. Alam mo, sir, pagka nakatutok yan sa katawan mo, sir, that's the end of you.
Okay. No, I'm just curious.
Self-defense.
Yes. Thank you very much, former President. To Chel Jokno, Attorney Chel Jokno, meron po bang handbook or paano po ba dapat ginagawa ito? Di ba dapat maximum tolerance ang ini-implement?
Yes, Mr. Chair. It's very clear both in the PNP manuals as well as the UN regulations that the use of lethal force is only to be done as a last resort. Klarong-klaro po yan, paulit-ulit yan nakikita sa both sa PNP manuals at sa United Nations guidelines.
Okay. Thank you very much. Former Senator De Lima, before I recognize you, yung mga nanay po kasi ng mga biktima, magpapaalam na po sa atin. Kaya sa mga kinatawan at mga congressman na nandito, kung wala naman po tayong mga katanungan sa kanila, okay lang po ba na magpaalam na po yung mga nanay? Are you okay with that? Okay. But before they go, the chair will give you a minute or maybe 2 minutes each. Kung meron po kayong gustong sabihin bago po kayo umalis at umuwi sa inyong mga pamilya.
Maraming
unahin po namin kay Ma'am Lori Pasco. Ma'am Lori?
Magandang gabi na po sa ating lahat. At bago po kami umuwi ay gusto naming magpasalamat sa committee na ito na nagbigay sa amin ng pagkakataon upang maipahayag namin kung ano yung aming saloobin at maikwento namin ang aming mga karanasan at kung ano yung nangyari sa aming mga mahal sa buhay. At yung mga panawagan po namin na sana po ay magkaroon talaga ng hustisya ang aming mga mahal sa buhay at magkaroon po talaga ng masusing investigasyon. Maraming salamat po.
Salamat. At ang susunod ko naman pong kikilalanin ay si Mary Ann Domingo. Ma'am Mary Ann Domingo.
Magandang gabi sa inyo lahat. Una sa lahat, nagpapasalamat po kami. Kami mga biktima na naimbitahan po dito. At sana po, tuloy-tuloy po na matulungan niyo po kami na magkaroon ng hustisya. Ito po ay hindi lang para sa mga namatayan, kundi sa mga nanay, sa mga nangulila, na magkaroon ng dignidad, muli magkaroon ng karapatang pantao kaming lahat. Sana po matulungan niyo po kami na mabigyan ng hustisya kaming lahat. Salamat po.
Maraming salamat po, Mrs. Domingo. At panghuli po, Ma'am Cristina Pascual.
Sa lahat po na nandito sa Congress, buong puso kami pong nagpapasalamat sa inyo na nararamdaman po namin na kasama namin po kayo sa nararamdaman naming bigat sa araw-araw po. Kaya po, wala po kami sawang nagpapasalamat po sa inyo. Salamat po.
Maraming salamat. Yes, ma'am. Pakipatay lang po yung mic pag hindi na po gamit. Yes, ma'am.
Maraming salamat po sa committee ito. Gusto rin po namin acknowledge ang iba pang mga pamilyang kasama namin. Nandito po sa likod. Sila Nanay Dalia.
Pwede po bang tumayo yung mga pamilya na nasa likod? Hindi po namin kayo nakilala kanina, kaya pasensya na po kayo. Pwede po kayong tumayo? Opo.
At ganun din po si Sister Lisa Ruedas, ang patuloy namin kasama sa paglalakbay. Si Nanay Sally, si Nanay Dalia, si Jane, at si Nanay Purisima. Sila po ang mga pamilyang 8 taon na pong naghahanap ng hustisya. Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat po at sa tiwala na ipinagkaloob niyo po sa Kongreso, sa Quadcom, at umasa po kayo na patuloy po natin hahanapin, maski mahirap man ang katotohanan, at hindi po tayo titigil upang mabigyan po ng hustisya ang maraming mga pamilyang nawalan. Kaya maraming salamat po sa inyong pagdalo sa oras at panahon. Senator De Lima, former Senator De Lima.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Your Honors, for allowing me to make an intervention. I just wish to comment on 3 points tackled during the questioning of the Honorable Congressman Adjong and also the responses of the resource person, the former mayor, former president, to those questions. Number 1 is about the limited period of detention. So ang sabi po ng dating mayor, dating pangulo, under current realities, medyo hindi na ho ito sapat. So he is proposing amendment of the pertinent laws, particularly the revised penal code. Let me remind everybody po na hindi lang po ang batas ang kailangan nating i-amend, kasi nandyan mismo yan sa saligang batas sa konstitusyon, yung maximum period of 72 days as detention. Nandyan po yan. That's the maximum allowable period. Kaya yung tungkol nga po dun sa Anti-Terrorism Act, isa po sa naging issue, na ganun nga ho, na yung 24 days of detention na nakalagay dun sa Anti-Terrorism Act, hindi po tumutugma. And in fact, sobra dun sa sinasabing period of detention na pwede, but after that, dapat i-charge nyo na, hindi tumutugma doon sa provision of the Constitution. So kailangan ho natin, hindi lang batas, kung yun ho ang magiging posisyon ng Kongreso, ay dapat kailangan din i-amend ang Constitution. Pero syempre, hindi lang basta-basta dahil gustong i-amend, pag-isipan po ng husto yan. Kailangan mabalanse. What should be the exact position na talagang balanse na while upholding state interest in combating crime, palagi natin pong dapat rin irespeto ang mga individual rights in the Bill of Rights. Second point, yung tungkol po sa study na nabanggit po ni Honorable Adjong. So it says that Davao City is among the safest. Let me point out po na yung study na yun, kung hindi po ako nagkakamali, Crowdsourcing po yan. So it's not necessarily reliable, it's not scientific. Ang alam kong study na reliable and scientific, although nakalimutan ko na po kung anong eksaktong study yon, I can search my materials, I can review my materials. Yung sinasabi na yung Davao City ay #1 ang sa murder, sa incidence of murder. At tumutugma po yan, consistent po yan, doon palaging sinasabi na pinapatay na lang kasi ang mga kriminal. Kaya, highest murder, but can you call that a safe city? Kasi yung murder, labag sa batas. Pwede bang safe ang isang lipunan kung basta na lang mga pinapatay na wala, na hindi dumadaan sa rule of law at wala nga tayong batas ngayon na kumikilala sa death penalty. So how can it be a safe city? Number 3, death penalty. Lagi po akong aalma kapag meron nagpro-propose ng death penalty. Pagkatapos naman kung mga anong insidente dahil nagkaroon ng mga high-profile heinous crimes, some would again propose death penalty. Kaya nga po yung sinasabi na yung sinabi hong listahan kanina ni Honorable Suarez, I actually support all of those. The policy recommendations, saka yung mga proposed bills, including the anti-EJK bill. I fully support those, except the one reimposing or seeking to restudy death penalty and eventually reimpose. Why? Number 1, alalahanin ho natin, baka nakakalimutan po natin na meron pong linagdaan ang Pilipinas na sinatawag na Second Optional Protocol to the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. Nung pinirmahan ho natin yung Second Optional Protocol, we committed as a state party never to reimpose or restore death penalty. Nag-commit po tayo doon, nanumpa tayo na hindi na natin maiisip na i-reimpose ang death penalty. Now, isa pang rason kung bakit hindi ko talaga, never akong magsasang-ayon sa death penalty. Yung ating resource person, the former mayor and the former president, kasasabi lang po niya, yung justice system natin, insufficient, weak, inefficient, flawed, may mga diferensya pa ang ating criminal justice system. So kung ganun, dapat ayusin muna natin yung criminal justice system. Kasi pag ganyan na flawed, sigurado ako na magkakamali. May mga pagkakataon na magkakamali ang korte na mag-impose ng death penalty. Yung mga bansa nga, yung mga ibang jurisdictions na medyo advanced na yung kanilang criminal justice system, nagkakamali pa rin. There are really recorded, documented cases of erroneous convictions and erroneous executions. So tayo pa kaya? Na tayo na mismo ang nagsasabi, kulang pa, inefficient pa, flawed pa, weak ang ating justice system? And then lastly, marami na pong mga studies na ang death penalty is never a deterrent to the commission of crimes. So anong magiging silbi nun? Tama na lang po yung ang i-impose kapag mga heinous, mga malalaking kaso, mga murder cases o mga drug cases na mga malalaki, tama na lang pong reclusion perpetua. Basta dumaan sa tamang proseso. Basta maayos ang justice system na mabilis ang takbo ng mga kaso at mapanagot sila ng tama. So for those reasons, Your Honors, Mr. Chair, I register, as always, my position against any plan to reimpose death penalty. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much, former Senator De Lima. Next on our list is Congressman Sendanya.
Mr. Chairman, may I just interject for...
First, is this
yes.
a short interjection?
Yes, it's just in connection also with what Senator De Lima said and what Congressman Adjong...
With the permission of Congressman Sendanya. Make it short, please, former Senator Trillanes.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. With all due respect to Congressman Adjong, but he's working on the assumption that seryoso, honest to goodness yung war on drugs. As we found out and as what I presented a while ago, everything is a ruse. Lahat po yon ay pagpapanggap lang. Kaya nga hindi niya masagot yung mga justifications dahil drama lang nila yon. It's just a form of social control, matakot lahat, and it was very effective. Sinampulan si Senator De Lima, pinakulong na walang na fabricated charges, kaya wala na, kumaga umatras na lahat. So it was all about that, pero titignan nyo what happened after. Yung grupo niya, yung sindikato niya, sila Michael Yang, sila Pulong, Charlie Tan, started importing illegal drugs through the front door sa customs. Pero ang ginawa nila nung una, a few months nung start ng administration niya, binabasag nila yung mga shabu laboratory everywhere with the projection na seryoso sila sa illegal drugs, pero mga kompetensya nila yon, yung local shabu manufacturers. So nung na-abolish na nila lahat, in-import na nila through the front door. Ngayon, magkano ang presyo nung shabu at that time nung kanila tumaas? So yung cartel nila ang nakinabang nung monopolization ng drug war. Kaya nga, sa galit niya, kunyari, sa pagpe-pretend niya ng galit siya sa illegal drugs, pero nung in-import yung 11 billion na shabu, yung 6.4 billion na shabu, then a few others na in-import, meron bang sinabihan si Duterte na kung sino yung drug lord behind it? Wala po. Tapos ito po yan. Sino po yung Customs Commissioner na nung time na yon? Si Faeldon sa 6.4, si La Peña nung 11 billion. 'Di ba? Pinadaan sa customs. Kung talagang galit na galit ka at hindi mo kasabwat yung nagpasok na yon, you should have hung these people kung talagang ganun siya magsalita eh. Pero anong ginawa po niya? Pre-promote niya. No? Pre-promote niya po ito. Prinoteksyonan niya kasi mga kasindikato niya. Then, here comes si Peter Lim, who was identified as one of the drug lords, pero same triad nila Michael Yang, kaya hindi nila mapatay, pinaalis na lang. No? Kunyari, nung nape-pressure, finailan po ng kaso, pero anong ginawa ho? Dinismiss. Despite the evidence. Tapos anong ginawa ho dun sa prosecutor na nag-dismiss? Pre-promote na judge. We have documented all this. Kaya we followed yung sequence ho. Kaya hindi kami mabobola ng mga ganyang parang seryoso. At kaya ako maraming nalilito na parang talagang gusto niyang ayusin lang talaga yung illegal drugs. Pero hindi.
Former Senator Trillanes, yes. Can we just...
just one more point, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, yeah.
Ito na lang po.
We're going
Mr. Chairman,
off tangent from
yes.
our discussion.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Congressman Fernandez.
Para to save time, no,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, can we have the documents that na sinasabi mo a while ago? So, para lang po makuha namin yung lahat ng
Yes.
points that you have mentioned.
I already submitted to the COMSEC yung...
When was this?
Just today, yung nung
okay.
present po.
Alright,
And,
thank you.
Kon po, yun po, as challenged earlier by Chairman Paduano, na pwede pong imbitahin yung AMLAC, but as I understand, hindi po exempted yung legislative inquiry because sinubukan na po namin yan. Pero exempted ang impeachment. So lalabas po yan eventually din. Pero yung ombudsman po, when they investigated this, they asked the AMLAC, kasi meron silang MOA ng exchange of information, nakuha nila yung mga dokumento na yon, kaya nga po na-validate yung aming mga dokumento at ang magpapatotoo po nito yung tinanggal sa pwesto na si Deputy Ombudsman Arthur Carandang. You can also invite him. Pero ito po yan. Nakita nyo po kanina nung sinabi ni Chairman Suarez na kung pwede siyang pumirma, ano hong ginawa niya, nang gulo siya, no? Pero baka pwedeng ibalik natin dun sa issue na pipirma siya ng waiver. O baka ngayon, nagtutulog-tulugan naman ho. So, pwede po natin papirmahin ng waiver pa rin.
Yeah, Senator Trillanes, we'll get to that item later. So I gave you your chance to speak, and I will now recognize Congressman Sindanya. Yes, Congressman Sindanya. Thank you.
May I interrupt?
Mr. Chairman.
Just one moment. I was not sleeping. I was praying
I hope
for his soul.
I hope I was included in your prayers, former President
Nagdarasal
Duterte.
po ako. Hindi ako nagtutulog.
Okay. Yes, Chairman Paduano.
Mr. Chairman, since former Senator Trillanes has mentioned about the authenticity of such, and he mentioned the name of former Deputy Ombudsman Carandang. So, Mr. Chairman, I move that we will invite former Deputy Ombudsman Carandang on the next hearing, Mr. Chairman. So move, Mr. Chairman.
There's a motion that we
Second.
invite former Deputy Ombudsman Carandang. Any second? Duly seconded. Any objection? There being none, motion's approved. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, I was informed by the COMSEC that the documents that this representation is asking is not a document. It's a video.
No. This is the presentation. We got the same one. We can have it reprinted, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, with the permission of Chairman Dan.
We will give it.
Let's recognize Congressman Sindanya, and then we'll move to the next matter because he has been patiently waiting for his turn. Kaninang umaga pa yan nandito, so pagbigyan muna natin. Congressman Sindanya, bagong upo po itong kinatawan ng kanyang party list. So, of course, you have 10 minutes. You may proceed.
Magandang gabi po, Mr. Chair. Maraming salamat. Magandang gabi po sa ating lahat. Totoo po yun, kanina umaga pa, walang tayuan, walang kain. Pero chill lang muna po tayo in the pursuit of truth. I'd like to begin with a short manifestation on the issue of the death penalty. I have to put on record that Akbayan maintains that this is an anti-poor measure. Alam naman po natin na ang karamihan, if not all, lang nasa death row ay laging puro mahihirap dahil hindi nila afford ang mahusay na abogado. Which calls to mind yung mga biktima ng EJK.